Our last story this evening is an update of a piece we aired in 2010 when the then Florida Marlins were getting ready to open a glitzy new ballpark that was funded in great part by taxpayers amid great controversy. Back then, team officials were suggesting a better park would bring higher profits with which to lure bigger stars and make everyone a winner. Well, it hasn't turned out that way. Today, the Marlins are statistically the worst team in all of baseball and arguably own the league's worst public image to boot. When Marlins Park first opened for business just last year, it was a gleaming new stadium with a retractable roof, an aquarium behind home plate, and a gaudy home run sculpture in left center.
Light that thing up!
Though expensive and controversial, it was, local fans thought, the end result of a promise that with a world-class stadium, the Marlins would now have the means to collect the best players money could buy. And collect them they did, for all of 1 year.
There's a lot of shame to go around today thanks to the fire sale of the Marlins' best players, which will go down in infamy in our national pastimes history.
Last November, after a terrible season, the Marlins decided to blow the team up. They traded almost all of their big-name, highly-paid players, cutting more than $160 million in salary, and leaving a largely no-name team in its wake.
We did, unfortunately, what had to be done, and we're sorry that it had to be done.
David Samson is the Marlins president.
We were hoping for a better result last year in the first few years of the ballpark, and we just had to change course.
Do you understand why fans are outraged and view that as a betrayal?
Yes. I think that fans should be disappointed and upset, and for that, we're sorry about that.
It's not just that they were upset, David. They feel that you're a guy who basically told them, hey, I need a better facility so I can make more money, and put it on the field, instead chose to put it in your pocket.
It's not right, Bryant. It's just not right. We didn't make more money. The team is losing money. The team lost money last year, a tremendous amount.
So now you're crying poverty.
I'm actually not crying at all. I'm just telling you how it is.
Samson says his payroll moves were necessary because attendance in the new ballpark was lower than expected and costs were higher. But local fans say they feel bait and switched.
What it looks like is that you got a stadium, you got your deal, and you pulled the equivalent of like a Ponzi scheme.
There was no line at all. And the fact of the matter is, just because we got divorced doesn't mean we were lying on our wedding day.
Everything was played up front.
Absolutely.
I would guess you have to be somewhat concerned that if there's a feeling among ball players that this is a place you get double-crossed, it's going to make it real hard for you to build a winner here.
We've had no shortage of players who want to come play here. And if you offer the most years and the most money to a player, they're going to play for your team, whether you're located in the far reaches of Yemen or in Miami, Florida.
But this wouldn't be the first time that Miami felt conned by the Marlins. We first met David Samson in October of 2010, while the ballpark was still under construction. Back then, many in Miami were already incensed at the amount of money that the public was putting into the stadium.
This is simply a bad deal for the county and its taxpayers.
And at the way Samson and the Marlins had strong-armed the city to get it, threatening to leave if they didn't get their way.
The Florida Marlins asked for and received permission from Major League Baseball to explore relocation.
You're a private business. If you really need it, why don't you build it for yourself?
For the simple reason that we can't build it ourselves.
I thought that they were hiding something.
Carlos Jimenez was a county commissioner when we spoke with him almost 3 years ago. Back then, he said he didn't believe that the Marlins were as financially strapped as they claimed and wanted proof.
It only makes sense for any kind of business deal that I take a look at the books.
Among the questions they asked was, can we see your books? You said no.
Right.
Why didn't you just open the books? Why isn't that easier?
Because in Major League Baseball history, books are just kept private. That's just how it is.
Commissioner Jimenez continued to voice his concern right on through the night of the final vote.
But they're not willing to give us their financials. Maybe they have more money than they're telling us, and they're able to contribute more into this deal than they're letting on.
But he wound up in the minority.
Motion passes.
And the Marlins got their ballpark. Miami-Dade County would foot roughly 70% of the bill, and the Marlins would pay a token rent and rake in all the profits.
Ground is broken.
With the new deal, You are getting enhanced value of the franchise?
I hope so.
You get the income from naming rights?
Yes.
You get the income from concessions?
Yes.
You get the luxury box income?
Yes.
You get the income from non-baseball events?
That's the whole object of this, is to get more revenue.
Many complain that this was a sweetheart deal that went too far. But just a year later, it looked even worse. The Marlins' financial records were leaked to the sports website Deadspin. It turned out that in 2008 and 2009, while the ball club was lobbying for public money, they were actually making a net income of nearly $50 million, making them one of the more profitable teams in all of baseball.
They want to hear you say that you lied.
But I didn't lie, and again, if people don't want to believe me, I'm sorry, and I wish they would believe me, but it's just the truth.
David Samson insisted that the Marlins used the $50 million profit to pay down existing debt in order to improve the team's financial condition, and that the deal was still a sound one for Miami-Dade.
You know, he's a great spin master. And what's he going to say? Oh, we took you for a ride?
When we returned to Miami just last month, the mayor who had pushed the stadium deal through was gone, kicked out of office in a special recall election. In his place, voters had elected the stadium deal's old foe, Carlos Jimenez.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you. As the county's new mayor, Jimenez told us that he fears that Miami-Dade's $2 billion commitment to Marlins Ballpark will haunt the county for decades to come.
I was against it because of what it's going to do. Basically, we're taking those dollars out of our children's and our grandchildren's hands where they could be funding their own projects 20, 30 years from now. And we're saying, no, we're going to do this for a baseball stadium right now.
Carlos Jimenez, do you view his election as a referendum on the ballpark and the funding of it?
Boy, I hope that people aren't choosing their mayor according to a ballpark. It's a funny way to vote for a mayor, I would say.
The fallout of the Marlins Stadium deal may not be limited to South Florida. In what may be a sports first, the Federal Securities and Exchange Commission has demanded from the team all documents related to the funding of the stadium.
I have not been told the ins and outs of what they're investigating.
Does it not seem to you that they're trying to determine if perhaps taxpayers were misled?
They're looking into whatever the SEC does. I don't know.
What are they going to find?
Exactly what I've told you, that the team has lost a lot of money over the years and that we are at our debt capacity.
David, with all due respect, you're lacking credibility on this. The last time you told people you didn't have any money, it required Deadspin to come out and show that instead you guys were very profitable and hiding that.
It's not true either. If you would look at those documents the way accountants would, fans don't want to hear about that. They don't want to hear about EBITDA and then operating cash and operating income and the fact that it wasn't profitable.
But for many residents of South Florida, it's more personal than business. One recent poll showed that only Fidel Castro is hated by Miami baseball fans more than team owner Jeffrey Loria. And Samson's public image isn't any better.
But I don't want this to be about me.
You seen some of the names you've been called?
Yes, of course. Of course. But I bet you're going to tell me them.
Carpetbagger?
Okay.
Charlatan?
Okay.
Asshole?
Okay.
To what extent in this area has it really become about you and Jeffrey Loria?
More so than we would like, no question. And again, I go back to it, Brian. That's what I'm sorry about. If my presence in any way is in any manner stopping people from going to baseball games, I would sooner step aside.
But it seems unlikely that Samson or Loria will step aside for at least 2 more years. That's when Loria would reportedly be able to sell the team without sharing any of the profits with Miami-Dade County. In the meantime, his Marlins franchise, thanks in great part to their new stadium, funded mostly by the public, has increased in worth to over $500 million.
He will not sell the team. He loves owning the team. He loves Miami, and he will not sell the team.
I think that eventually they will sell.
Despite their vows, they have no intention to sell.
Their vow, really?
Okay. Their promise, their claims.
Okay. Oh well, I'm convinced. Okay.
It's not just the mayor, but all of South Florida that seems to have lost faith in the Marlins. The team's recently completed opening week was every bit the disaster that skeptics feared. with the cut-rate team pummeled night after night. The only saving grace was also a sad irony. Few were at the Marlins ballpark to see it.
It's nice to have a ballpark here, and it's nice to have baseball.
But nobody's coming here.
Oh, but that's simply today. When you look at the long-term franchise and where we are, it's good. It's better that we have a ballpark.
David Samson says that is the big plus, that there is Major League Baseball in South Florida. Is that enough?
No, that's not enough. We need to get a better return on investment.
You told me you were confident the stadium deal would work out for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Could you have been any more wrong?
I think it's quite premature to say that for anybody.
It seems to me you're being pretty dismissive of overwhelming evidence that this thing has gone south.
Right now, of course it's south, and that's why I'm very sorry about what happened.
Where's the evidence that the light at the end of the tunnel isn't a train coming to hit you?
You just hope it's not a train. You just hope.
2 weeks does not a season make, but the early returns on this year's Marlins, not good. As I speak, the Marlins at 2-11 own the worst record in all of baseball. With just 23 runs, they are by far the lowest scoring team in all of baseball. And their average home attendance of fewer than 20,000 people a game, it's last in the National League. Finally tonight, a personal note. Like millions of Americans, I'm applauding last night's 66th anniversary of Jackie Robinson's debut with the Brooklyn Dodgers, but for admittedly selfish reasons. Some of them obvious, some not so much. Since success has many fathers, there's praise aplenty on this anniversary for Jackie, his wife Rachel, and of course for Branch Rickey. But indulge me for giving the lion's share of my personal applause to a relatively forgotten hero named Wendell Smith. It was Smith, a sports writer for the now-defunct Pittsburgh Courier, who made black opportunity in the majors a personal crusade. It was Smith who brought Robinson to the attention of Branch Rickey. And it was Smith who co-wrote Jackie's autobiography and documented his exploits in the crucial days that led to greater integration of the game. More importantly to me, it was Smith who in 1964 became a local sports anchor with WGN-TV in Chicago, the first person of color in a position of authority ever seen on television by yours truly, who at the time was a young and impressionable sports-minded teenager on the south side of the city. Given my limited skill set, I knew back then that while I couldn't be a Jackie Robinson, I could become a Wendell Smith. Of such small occasions are big dreams born and memories made, some of which still linger. And that's our show for this evening. For all of the good folks here at Real Sports, I'm Bryant Gumbel. Thank you so very much for being with us, and good night. For bonus clips on all of our stories, you can log on to hbo.com/realsports. And you can watch us anytime on HBO Go and HBO On Demand. Join us again for Real Sports on May 21st when we'll profile Penn State's head football coach, Bill O'Brien, whose inspiring relationship with his developmentally challenged son helped prepare him to do the improbable, turn around a program shattered by scandal.